Welcome to Satsang. थोड़ा सा बढ़ा दो भैया. धन्यवाद. So we'll begin as always with a question that came in advance, and then we'll open it up to any questions that we have here. What are the requirements and techniques of meditation? Can everyone meditate? The only requirement for meditation is a concerted effort to meditate. There's dozens of different techniques. None of them is better than the others. Nothing is right, nothing is wrong. We do a couple of different types of very simple techniques in here, but whatever lineage, wherever you've learned, the point is whatever works for you. It's like saying, is there a right way to get into Ganga? Is there a right way to love? It doesn't matter. What matters is get into Ganga. Do you want to walk carefully down the steps? Do you want to walk down a ramp? Do you want to jump off a rock? Do you want to go in a boat and jump off the boat? It doesn't matter. What matters is get in. Is there a right way to love? If we went around the room and I said, okay, pick someone you love, tell me about how you love them, everyone would have different answers. And they're all right. And I've purposely chosen these two examples, although I'm sure there's a lot of things in life that there's also lots of ways to do, because what meditation is getting in, like we get into Ganga. It's getting into the self. And when we get in and we connect, we ultimately find that we're connecting in love. And sometimes it begins by loving the divine outside. So maybe I sit to meditate and I chant a mantra of Bhagwan Krishna. And in chanting that mantra of Krishna, the love for Krishna is growing in my heart. Or I chant a mantra of Bhagwan Shiva, and as I chant it, the love for Shiva is growing in my heart. Or maybe I chant Om. And as I chant Om, that which is keeping me from diving into the truth of who I am, that which is keeping me from connecting to the truth of who I am, that dissipates. And as I connect with the truth of who I am, I realize that who I am is love. And so I find love blossoming inside me. And it doesn't have to be love for a person, but just love in general, love for humanity, love for creation. I find that I move through the world more in love. When you get home at the end of a day, of a tiring or a stressful day at the office or at school or wherever you go, whatever you do during the day, and you want to get into a hot bath. Well, again, you could say, is there a right way to take a bath? Of course there's not a right way to take a bath. Some people like bubbles, some people like aromatherapy, some people like it in the dark with candles. I know people who put rose petals in. There are some people who like it just normal with the lights on, they read a book. There's no right way to take a bath. But there is a wrong way to take a bath, which is to get in with all your clothes on. The only essential prerequisite for a bath is you've got to get naked. Otherwise, regardless of the bubbles or the aromatherapy or the rose petals or the candles, you're not going to find it relaxing. If you're in a bathtub soaking in a suit and tie, soaking in your shoes, soaking in your sari, it is not going to be relaxing. And with meditation, it's really the same thing. Doesn't matter how you get in. What matters is that all of the techniques, are we chanting a mantra? Are we watching the breath? Are we reciting a word? Are we staring at our third eye? Are we imagining an image of the divine? Are we doing any combination of them? Because you also can do several of them. For those of us with overactive minds, it helps to have 2 or 3 things we're doing simultaneously. You can do any of them. All that matters is that whatever you're doing is freeing yourself of that which is keeping you chained to the concept that you are this body, to the concept that you are your mind, to the concept that you are your career or your bank balance or your achievements. The same way that your suit and your tie or your sari or your shoes or your hat are keeping you chained to the dressing of the body. Right? The suit and the tie, it's your role, it's the symbol, the clothes, it's all about the body. Well, in the same way, my mind racing about my identity or my attachments or my expectations or my fears or my ego or my judgments, it's the same thing. It's this artificial sort of layer of clothing that literally weighs me down and is the only thing preventing me from having a good bath, literally for the body, or a good meditation on a deeper soul level. So whatever way works for you. There's a story about this that I love of 3 men who are stranded on an island in the middle of the ocean. And they pray every day that they should be saved. Someone should save them. And they wake up one morning and there's a canoe just waiting for them on the shore of the island. And they're ecstatic and they jump in the canoe and they row the canoe back to the mainland. They're saved, they're happy. A couple of weeks later, someone meets them walking through the marketplace, and they're walking in this single file line holding the canoe on their heads. The person says to them, "Why are you walking through the market with a canoe on your head?" And they say, "Oh, you know, this canoe, we love it, it saved our life, and we were stranded in the canoe, and it's because of this we're here." And the person says, "Well, that's great, but why are you carrying the canoe on your head?" And they say, "Well, you know, this canoe, and it saved our life, and we were stranded." And what I love about the story is, yeah, the canoe got them across the ocean. It was very important. But now that they're there, the canoe becomes a hindrance. You can't live in a city with a canoe on your head. You can't do anything. Yeah, you've been saved, here you are, but you've just rendered yourself sort of still stuck because you're holding this canoe on your head. And whatever technique we use to get into meditation, and again, the story is good because they got a canoe, but it didn't matter, it didn't have to be a canoe. Could have been a rowboat, it could have been a yacht, it could have been a pair of jet skis, it could have been anything that floats, anything that they knew how to use to get across. That was all that mattered, is that they could use it to get across. And the same thing is true with our meditation techniques, because they're tools, they're techniques to get us from this crazy mind, this identification with here I sit and oh my God, my knee and my hip and the list of things I have to do, and my growling stomach and my annoying family members or colleagues or neighbors, gets us from that across the ocean into the mainland, you could say metaphorically, the main land, like where we are supposed to be, the main purpose of it all, the main place. Even though this world seems like the thing, it's actually metaphorically that island that we've kind of been stranded on. Now we have this technique to take us back. And what you'll find when you meditate is whatever technique you use to go in, you're doing it, and you're watching your breath and watching your breath and watching your breath, or chanting a word or a phrase or a mantra. And you'll find that you get to a place where the breath stops, or it seems like it stops. The mantra seems like it stops. And everything just becomes very still. And lots of people have lots of different experiences. Some people see colors, some people see images, some people just experience stillness and spaciousness and nothingness. Some people experience everythingness. Nothing is better or worse. There's no right or wrong. There's not like a higher level. Sometimes people come in and say, oh, I've seen this now, where am I on the spiritual ladder? There isn't a spiritual ladder. It's not that if you see this, you're at 3rd grade, and wait till you see that, that's 4th grade. But what happens is we get to that space, and there's this instinct, this knowing inside of us that says, yeah. And then there's the thinking mind that says, oh wait, you forgot to watch your breath. Oh wait, you're not chanting your mantra anymore. And then we say, oh yeah. And we become like the guys with the canoe on our heads. So whatever you use it. But when you get there, be there. When that voice in your head says the breath, you're like, and just stay with where you are. And what you'll find is, unless you are supremely blessed, or you've been meditating for a supremely long period of time, that state of complete stillness, complete merging, it doesn't tragically last very long. Whether it's seconds, whether it's minutes, it's going to dissipate. And what you're going to find is there you are. And then suddenly you're back with your to-do list, with your annoying neighbor. And that's when you bring the technique back in. That's when you realize, I've lost it. And again, I'm on the breath. I'm on the mantra. And you cross that ocean again. But when you get to that space, to that place, just be there. Don't pull yourself out of it in order to use the technique again. You'll need the technique soon enough because it's going to dissipate. But while you're there, just be there and see how long you can just be there without the thoughts coming. So whatever technique gets you there, use it. So I'm happy to open it up to any questions that may be here. Yes, you and then Nitin. Yes.
I have a question about, right now we are experiencing a state of joyfulness, a blissful state, and like we were there in the Aarti also. So is this state sustainable? By what means we can sustain this state?
Great.
We are a part of the society. We are contributing to society in many ways. So when we are contributing to society, the state being of very, very, very
Great. So how do we sustain that state of bliss? Sitting here, sitting in the arti, sitting on the banks of Ganga. Well, as you said, we go back and we get angry and we get this and we get that. Well, remember, the you who got angry has now been changed. The state of bliss that you experience here is very different from a state of enjoyment that you get from just seeing a good movie or going to a good party or hanging out with your friends. It impacts you on a very, very different level. And so that actually transforms you. So don't be so sure that you're going to go back into being exactly the same as you were. Allow yourself to realize that the state of bliss that you experience here is not just a temporary emotion. It's actually a much deeper state. What that means is that while you're here, however long you're here, you need to try to make that state of bliss your own. Let it change you as much as it can. Let it deeply impact you as much as it can. So, after satsang, for example, after dinner, instead of just, going to a cyber cafe and checking your email, or, hanging out, going shopping, sit on the banks of Ganga. Allow it to solidify and crystallize, and you do as much as you can from morning till night here to keep yourself in that state. Because the more and the deeper and the more powerfully that you experience it here, the more it's yours. The example that I always give about this is, if you go away on a holiday and you have sort of a romantic fling, and it doesn't mean anything, and it's just, a meaningless fling. Well, you get on a plane and you leave to come back and it's over. Like, you knew it was just a fling. She knew it was just a fling. But if you actually fall in love with someone while you're away, it doesn't go away because you got on a plane. You get on a plane and all you can do is start to figure out when you're going to see her again. How can you bring her to you? How can you go to her? How can you marry her? How can you, make this temporary state a permanent state? So the difference between the romantic fling and actually falling in love is that one of them changed you on the inside. The other was just fun you were having. And so make sure while you're here that bliss is something that's really changing you on the inside, not just fun you're having. And from the way you've described it, I can tell it is. And that's why we know it's going to stay with you. Because when you go to just a good movie or a good party, it's not transforming you, it's just entertaining you. But this is actually transforming you. So you'll be different when you leave. Then, when you go back, initiate a practice to reconnect to this and do it immediately. Don't wait until you've lost it completely. That's what so many of us do, is we go back with this sense of like, yeah, I'm all peace, I'm all joy, I'm all this, no problem. And then a week later, a month later, whenever it is, you think, oh my God, what has happened to me? And you try to pedal yourself back. But you've lost it so much that it's really hard to find. Now, the good news about that is you can always just come back. We're here. So it's not something to worry about. But if you can initiate a practice from minute one when you go back, it's much better. It'll help you really maintain it. And let that practice be a personal practice, a meditative practice. Let it also be a practice with people. So figure out, who's my Sangha? Like, who am I hanging out with? Am I only hanging out with people whose primary goal is to win the rat race? And if so, can we expand our friend circle? Can we find people who are interested in spiritual things? And you will be able to. And so change your Sangha. Change how you spend time together. So maybe instead of, 2 hours of TV or whatever it may be, I'm not saying don't watch TV at all, but maybe, half an hour of TV and an hour and a half of do arti, meditate together. Maybe, take a chapter from the Gita or a line from the Gita. Watch a satsang online. Whatever it is, take that time that you're spending together anyway. And rather than sitting on a couch together, each of you on your phones, on your own WhatsApp or Facebook, put the phones down. Spend the time together. 2 is enough to be a Sangha. So do that together. And keep coming back. And actually the last piece about that is when you find yourself getting angry, ask yourself, is it really worth it? Is it really worth it? What's my ultimate goal? And remember, there's no right answer to that. There will be people who say to you, your ultimate goal should be get ahead, get ahead, get ahead, get ahead. You got to be number 1. Hey man, you're getting lazy. Hey buddy, step it up, step it up. There are people for whom that's the ultimate goal. I could sit up here and say to you, your ultimate goal is to have self-realization, discover yourself, connect with the divine. The question is for you, you've got to figure out what is your ultimate goal. And if being angry and frustrated and judgmental and competitive is in service of that, then by all means, go back and do it. But if it's not, then when you find yourself starting to have those feelings, ask yourself, hey, wait, is it worth it? Is losing my peace really worth getting all uptight about this? Because we tend to value money much more than we value our peace. We tend to value external success much more than we value internal peace. And so we seem typically very, very prepared to throw away our state of mind, our peaceful mind, our loving mind, in service of the rat race. And you've got to ask yourself, is it worth it? And that's a question only you can answer. Yes.
Answer for meditation just now you answered. I don't know what I do is meditation or what I don't know. So in my so-called meditation, I love, and it works for me, I don't know. I love doing it in a swing, jhula. Yeah. And for hours.
Why not? Sure. Why not? I have yet to read any rule that says you must sit down with your legs in that position. But just be careful you don't rock yourself to sleep. That's the only thing. Because sleep is wonderful, but it's different than meditation. And so people say sometimes, well, can I lie down and meditate? And again, sure. I know that for me personally, I would be asleep in a couple of minutes. And so if you find that you can lie down and meditate and you're actually still fully engaged, fully present, fully mindful, and your body hurts sitting or for whatever reason you need to, okay. Rock yourself in the swing, no problem. I would rock myself to sleep. But if you find that at the end of rocking you are still fully there, fully present, no problem at all. Absolutely. Sure.
Maybe, Sadhvi, that training our mind answer, which we are given. At times it happens we just love losing to our mind.
Mm-hmm.
वो गाना है ना,
Mm-hmm.
दिल क्या करे जब किसी से प्यार, yeah, so
Yeah, so we were speaking last night about training the mind, and he said, well, sometimes we love just losing to it. Well, remember we've been given free will, along with everything else that we've come into this world with, along with our karmic package, our destiny, our dharma, along with all of that, we've also been given free will. And herein lies the dilemma. Because we have this mind, and the mind has desires, and the mind has habits, it has sanskaras, grooves that it goes into. We all have different ones. The mind has expectations, the mind has defense mechanisms. I mean, if you bring together the world of psychology with the world of spirituality, there's probably an unlimited number of ways that our mind can pull us out of our spiritual practice. But we've been given free will to do whatever we want. And yeah, people love to give in to the mind. This is why sadhana, tapasya, is seen as, sometimes when people translate sadhana or tapas into English, they'll use the word austerities or penance, which have very negative connotations. Now, sadhana and tapasya don't actually have negative connotations, but when it gets translated into English, frequently the words have that negative connotation because, yeah, it's a struggle. Absolutely, yeah, the mind wants to daydream and the mind wants to go in all sorts of places. And this is why, when we talk about light, we speak so frequently about this concept of darkness and light, and whether we're talking about, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, or we're talking about the guru being the one who removes our darkness and brings light. It's a lot easier said than done, because we're actually addicted to our darkness. Otherwise, we'd all fall at the feet of the guru and we would be done. The guru would say something and we would hear it and that would be it. Like the guru would shine the light and we would just be done. No more expectations, no more egos, no more problem, nothing. The problem is we're actually addicted to our darkness. And for me, the image that I think of is, how many of you are parents here? Raise your hand if you've got kids. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever babysat someone else's kids. Okay, so most of you have either kids of your own or you've babysat kids. And what you know is whenever it's bath time, and this is universal, it's bath time, you get the kid naked, and what does the kid do? Run all over the house. And you chase the kid to get them to go into the bath. It's very rare that you'll find a child who will say, oh, great, it's bath time. Yes, take off all my clothes and put me in that water. No, 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 no. They scream and they run all over the house naked. It's just this common sort of universal scene of naked kids running through the house, not wanting to get put in the bath, and parents saying, come on, it's come, come, come. You've got to have a bath. Come, come, come. And it's the perfect metaphor to me, because you think, well, They're dirty. They've been playing outside all day long. They're covered in dirt. The bath is nice and warm and sudsy. It's not like their parents are dumping them in a bucket of ice water or something. It's always nice, warm water, and sometimes there's suds, and they've got a rubber ducky, and like it's a nice environment. Why are they so anti having that dirt scrubbed off them? Why don't kids say, thank God I've been waiting for you to offer to scrub this dirt off me? And I don't know the answer, but they don't. But to me, that's the exact same metaphor for us. It's like here we are covered with our egos and our attachments and our desires and all of this nonsense. And the guru comes in and basically says, I've got this nice warm bath ready for you. I'm gonna wipe that dirt away. And we sometimes even get ourselves kind of halfway there. You know, you get touched and the grace is there. We're sort of the spiritual equivalent of stripped of our clothes. And then we're just gonna be really put in that bath. And the ego comes in and we're like, no, 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 no. And we do the equivalent of running around the house, stark naked, screaming. Now, the guru tends to be much less attached to getting us in the bath than our parents are. And so the guru's like, all right, take your time, I'm here. But it's a very interesting situation because here we are covered with this metaphoric spiritual dirt. We've got the practices, we've got the scriptures, we've got the teachings, we've got the gurus prepared and able to do it for us. We've got the tools to do it ourselves, so okay, maybe for whatever reason we don't want someone else to bathe us. It's I'm going to shower on my own. I'm a big boy now, Mom. You know, just I'll get in the shower myself. Okay. But we don't want to do that either. The scriptures have given us the teachings. The sages, the saints, they've given us the ways. We've got the practice of meditation. We've got all of these ways to scrub that dirt off ourselves. If we don't, for whatever reason, want to just surrender to the guru. But we don't do that either. It's very interesting. It's like we stand metaphorically in the shower, not turning the knob on. Like it's there, and the bar of soap is there, and the shower head's there, and the towel's hanging there, and we just, forget it, not today. And because God has been either compassionate or cruel, depending on how you think about it, enough to give us free will, we have the ability to walk out of that shower every day without turning it on. But at some point, we have to say, and where exactly is that getting me? Because not only do I have yesterday's dirt, but I'm actually accumulating more and more dirt. If the kid doesn't get bathed today, they're going to go out and play again tomorrow, and by the end of the week, you know, you're not going to even have any idea what color your kid's skin is. You're not going to be able to see them through the dirt. And the same thing is true for us. You know, we go out and we just keep accumulating it. But we've got this free will. And this is where the whole cycle of karma and reincarnation comes in, is the universe is really just sort of prepared to let us keep doing it as long as we want to keep doing it. But it's up to us to say, okay, wait. I'm tired of smelling myself. I'm the one suffering. Other people have stopped coming near me. But I'm the one who has to keep smelling myself. I mean, metaphorically, I'm the one living in my anger. I'm the one living in my expectations. I'm the one living in my depression. I'm the one living in my addiction. I'm the one living in my attachments. I'm the one living in my ego. Other people get to choose to just stop coming over. But I've got to keep smelling myself. There's nowhere for me to run. And so at some point it just gets so much that we say, fine, forget it, I'm going to turn on that water. Or we bow at the feet of the guru and say, fine, I'm ready, just throw me in the tub. Enough. But yeah, you're right, we do have a choice. And that mind is very compelling. This is why we talk about, Maya, and they talk about the veils of Maya. It's alluring. In all of the scriptures and the stories, and Maya is always portrayed as this very, kind of wily, sort of sensuous, seductive mistress. If Maya weren't nearly so alluring, it would be very easy to say, nah, I don't want any. But the veils of Maya are very alluring. And this is where we need to be strong. But it's also where we need to ask ourselves every day, like, okay, yeah, I went with my mind yesterday, and where exactly did that take me? Where am I now? Spiritually, where am I emotionally? Karmically? How did that work out for me? Well, I've got another chance today. Because I guarantee you the desire is going to come up again. And for me, one of my favorite ways of dealing with that, because the idea of forever is very scary. But one of my favorite ways is, an old pattern will come up, an old pull will come up, an internal pull to sort of act in a certain way or think a certain way or react in a certain way. And over the years of enough sadhana, I've developed the ability in most cases to be able to wedge enough space, even if it's just little, but enough space, to be able to say to myself, is there an alternative? And that's all it's about. It's not about you are bad. It's not about you are wrong. It's not about you're dirty. It's not about anything like that. It's simply about, is there an alternative? You are about to go into a groove that you know how to go into because it's what you've done for, 44 of your 48 years. You know how to do that. Here it is again. We know exactly where this is going to end up because we do this every day. Is there an alternative? And what I have found is there's always an alternative. But here's what's so beautiful about it. You don't have to commit in that moment to always taking the alternative. You just have to say, well, let's see what that's like once. What would it be like if instead of reacting to the present situation in the way that I always react, what if I reacted differently? What if I interpreted this situation differently? What if instead of being the victim, for example, that I always am of this or that, what if instead of being that, I interpreted it differently? What does that look like? And you simply do it once. And what it does doesn't mean you'll never go back to your old ways, which is good, because if the ego knew by doing it once it never gets to do it the old way again, it would never give you the freedom to do it even once. But you act in that alternative way, you respond internally in that alternative way just once. And what it does is every single time that situation comes up, it gives you that tiny bit of space where you know you've got a choice. And it gives you a power where you never had a power. And it doesn't mean that you may not choose, today I'm just going to go with my mind. I'm going to stay dirty today. No shower for me today. Whatever it may be. It's your choice. But at least you've had the experience of making a different choice. And so forever that has changed you on the inside to know, there's an alternative. And that space is yours forever now. And slowly what you'll find is you'll start taking the alternative. Because the original way doesn't feel so good. Yes, last question.
When we see yourself and Swamiji, even Nandini, so I feel you are full of happiness 24/7. Whereas our material world, we live in material world in Maya, so happiness is some like a guess. Honestly speaking, we are many times, many sort of time, we are in sadness and depressions and tensions. So should we, in this material world, and we should also come in the spirituality for full day, just like you. And I am for sure that in spirituality there is very happiness, and whatever time you will do spirituality, you will be happy. So either there is an alternate that after doing this all work, 8 to 10 hours, will receive happy, doing some and spirituality.
Okay. So there's a two-part answer about happiness. Is the answer to being happy 24/7 that you have to live this life? Well, first of all, I am not automatically happy 24/7. And it's important for you to know that. Because otherwise you think, if I just do that, I also will be happy 24/7. She's somehow better than I am. I am not automatically happy 24/7. Happiness is a choice. And what I have learned over the years is how to choose happiness. And this is exactly what I was just saying to you about the anger and the frustration. Is I have learned over and over and over and over again the hard way that losing my peace, losing my happiness in favor of, for example, having things go my way, having people do what I want them to do, having them do it when I want them to do it, the way I want them to do it, none of that is worth my happiness. But I've learned that the hard way. By losing my happiness and losing my peace over and over enough times that I finally, in my spiritual practice, in the meditation, in that skill really, and that's what it is a skill of slowing down enough that you're able to witness and watch your own life. A skill of creating enough space in between your emotions and their triggers that I realize I have a choice and make different choices. The triggers are still there, but I make different choices because what I've watched over and over again is A, losing my happiness and peace tragically does not make people do what I want. If it did, then at least you'd have sort of a fair question to say, well, all right, either I lose my peace and actually get them to do what I want, or I maintain my peace and don't. And you could go either way. But the truth is that losing your peace and happiness doesn't actually get people to do what you want. It doesn't actually earn you any more money. It doesn't actually make the universe obey you anymore. And all you've done is thrown away your happiness and peace. And so for me personally, this has been the cultivation of a skill, of a lifestyle that takes work, and it takes concentration, and it takes constantly choosing again and again, that's not the direction I want to go. I know where that goes. But it begins by asking yourself, is there an alternative? Because first you've got to even realize I have a choice. Otherwise you think, well, I'm angry because this guy made me angry. I'm stressed because, oh my God, my boss yelled at me, or I'm stressed because this happened with my train and it was late, or I'm stressed because of this person or this situation. And we really don't even realize we have an alternative. Not an alternative to change what people do, but an alternative to change how we react. And then you cultivate a skill, a choice of choosing happiness and choosing peace in every moment. Now, yes, being in a world of people who are committed and dedicated to making that choice is easier than being in a world of people whose highest goal is, hey man, gotta get ahead, gotta get ahead, gotta get ahead. Of course. That's why the Sangha is so important. That's why Satsang is so important, is being in that association. So absolutely, the more time you can spend here, the more time you can spend on a spiritual path. Yes, in general, what we know is that people who have a spiritual practice are happier than people who don't. I say this to you as a scientist. I mean, there is research, lots of research out there on it. People who meditate are happier than people who don't. We're actually interestingly healthier also. Physically healthier also. So happier and healthier. People who are spiritual, people who have faith in God, people who dedicate time to things like meditation are happier and healthier than people who don't. This is now science. So yes, that is piece one. But piece two is, do you necessarily have to leave everything and come and join an ashram? No. If you would like to, you are more than welcome. We are here. But it's not a prerequisite for happiness. The only prerequisite for happiness is you making the choice to be happy. You could come here and be miserable. There's plenty of things to feel stressed about, plenty of things to feel competitive about, plenty of things to be angry about. Even sitting here, I have to make a choice, hour by hour, to choose happiness, to choose peace. Because that which steals our happiness and our peace is not our external environment, it's our minds. It's our mind that says, that's not fair. It's our mind that says, who do you think you are? It's our mind that says, no. So yeah, there may be more triggers, and I think there are, in the outer world than in an ashram. But there's triggers everywhere. And there's the mind everywhere. And so where you are right now, learn how to choose peace, choose happiness. There's a beautiful story of a disciple saying to his guru, I've been meditating and I'm not experiencing God, and I'm going through the practices, but I'm not experiencing God, and I don't know what to do. And the guru takes him to the river. They go to the river, and the guru holds his disciple's head under the water. The disciple's thrashing about, can't breathe. The guru's holding it under the water. Thrashing about. Finally, basically before the guy passes out and dies, the guru lifts up his hand and lets the guy up, and the man, and the guru says to him, so was your mind wandering? The man's like, no. And the guru says, so that to-do list, all of that, were you thinking about them? I was like, no, of course not. I thought I was going to die. All I was thinking about was getting air. And the guru says, when you want God, the way you wanted a breath, that's when the mind becomes still. That you've got to want God the way you wanted a breath. And whether we call it God or you call it happiness and peace, whatever it is, when it's only fifth on your order of priorities, and first you want to be rich, and then you want to be successful, and when down here you want to be happy, chances are it's not going to happen. But when you make that your highest priority, and at every moment you're choosing happiness or choosing peace over whatever else the situation is offering, only then does it become possible. Okay? We actually have to close, but tell me what it is, and if we can do it really quickly, we will.
So, the question is very simple. Right? I just want to know that all the things which are happening around us, yes, we are part of the cosmos and we are interacting with this cosmos.
Yeah.
Is that thing is happening just because I'm attracting that thing, or that thing is happening because there's some other reason? So that's
Yes.
want some change in it.
Yes, it's happening both. It's happening because of you. It's happening because of a whole bunch of karmic threads that weave together into a tapestry that you can't even see. But when you say, is it happening because it wants some change from me? If you are suffering in any way, it is a signal that some change is required. Sometimes it's an outer change, sometimes it's an inner change. But that's the cue. If you're suffering, pain is natural. You fall down, you hurt yourself, you're going to have pain. The body experiences pain. Suffering is an emotional reaction. If you are suffering, if in the situation you're in you are experiencing anything other than joy and peace, it is an indication that some change is required. And that doesn't mean that the change is outer. In almost every case, the change is inner. We go about trying to change the world around us. But in almost every case, the change is internal. Sometimes the change is external. But first, before you change anything outside, first do as much change on the inside as you possibly can. And only then you'll know if it's what needs to be changed outside. Natha, we go through the world changing our environment outside. You know, Pujya Swamiji always says, the air conditioning, the air conditioning's on outside, but the fire is on inside. Doesn't matter how high the AC is on outside. If the fire is on inside, you're still going to burn. So first deal with that, and then see if something outside needs to be changed. But chances are the inner change will automatically take care, not only of the suffering, but the inner change will automatically change the external in whatever way it needs to. Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. I'm so sorry that we don't have time to take it, but have a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful evening, everyone. And unfortunately will not see you tomorrow. I'm leaving tomorrow to go abroad for several weeks. But